Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to yet another episode of Rise to More. Yet another day and yet another phenomenal guest. I am so incredibly excited. You know, many of us have two lives. We have the life that we built, the career, the credential, the accomplishments, the version of success that looks really good from the outside. And then there was the life that was always waiting for us, the life that, we have been, things that have been true to us since we were born. And all of that brings together that overall life accomplishment resume, so to speak. Christy Sovereign spent 35 years building one of the most impressive careers in American business. She's a senior executive at Accenture, leader of billion-dollar relationships, one of the most respected names in the Twin Cities business community. And the whole time, for over 40 years, there was this other life, volunteering, coaching, showing up, for a cause that had nothing to do with quarterly results and everything to do with her sister Katie. This June, these two lives finally become one. And this is something really close to my heart, and you're going to hear why. Christy is the president and the CEO of 2026 Special Olympics USA Games, 4,000 athletes, 10,000 volunteers, 75,000 fans in all 50 states. So it's the largest humanitarian sporting event, besides the World Cup, I've told, in the country this year. And she didn't leave her career to do this. She's doing both. I don't know how, but we're going to ask her. This is a conversation of what happens when you stop choosing between who you are professionally and who you are personally, and what it asks of you when the two finally meet. Christy, welcome to Rise to More.
Thank you for having me. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
I am so excited. So you and I met through Nick, but we met at the governor's mansion. And you didn't know me at the time, but I was sitting in the background just listening to you speak with so much passion, with so much enthusiasm and commitment to something that felt beyond personal. And I remember standing there, and I was there with my husband, and we were both really moved. So back when the Nick was here, we were interested in supporting the Special Olympics. But then when I heard you speak, and then it was Elizabeth who spoke, it was like just tears down my eyes. So my first question to you is, you must be so incredibly proud that we have the largest humanitarian sporting event in the nation here in Minnesota this year.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I'd be remiss if I didn't start with a thank you, Nick Engbloom, our amazing board member, for this introduction and connection and all the magic that you're making happen in support of it. Thank you so much. We couldn't be more proud. So the mission has been part of the mission of Special Olympics, and improving the lives of people with intellectual disability has been part of my life, my whole life. My sister Katie was born with Down syndrome, and I could remember marking down the days, her marking down the days until she's turned 8 years old and could start competing or participating in Special Olympics. And so for over 40 years, as you say, that's been passion, that's been hobby, that's been free time to coach and volunteer and do all of this. So it is a passion meets purpose for sure, right? To be able to be so privileged to be in this professional situation now, to lead what are our efforts to host these incredible athletes and execute these incredible games. I'm a lifetime Minnesotan too, born and raised here, back to your point. And so how lucky are we? How proud are we as Minnesotans to be able to have this be home for what will be this largest humanitarian event in the U.S. in 2026?
Oh, it's really exciting. And you and I were talking earlier. We really need this.
We really need this.
We really need. We've had. I just feel like we have been hammered now for years, and under this dark cloud. And after the winter that we've had here in Minnesota, focusing and highlighting Minnesota for the most wonderful, positive things. Right. And this, I mean, really, we couldn't have picked a better event.
It couldn't be. We did. We had Minnesota on a national stage as 2026 started, and it was a very difficult start to 2026 for many people, many of us. And so what a wonderful opportunity to have Minnesota back on a national stage in June for all of the goodness that Special Olympics represents in terms of joy and inclusion and unconditional acceptance and all that. And I have no doubt the Minnesotans will turn out, as they always do,
Yes, we will.
in support of something this important. And how
Yes, we
wonderful to
will.
be back on stage, as you say, for that reason.
Yeah, I'm curious. For 40 years now, you've been coaching, supporting. You have been in this field, and for a lot of us, the issues of intellectual disability they're not front and center. And you and I were talking earlier, nothing is important to you until it's important to you, until
that's so well
firsthand
said.
you come into contact with it. So I'm curious how it might have evolved over all these decades. Our attention to it, our care for it, our emphasis and advocacy for it.
Yeah, no, I love that question. It has come a long way in terms of the appreciation, I would say, for the abilities of people with intellectual disability.
Don't you love that the way you said it?
No, but I look at and I'm so appreciative of what you see as opportunity that's out there, right? And an appreciation for differing abilities
Yes.
versus different. I'm like, I wish that existed in 1974 when my sister was born. And so you cheer for what is all of the continued movement and all that is bringing opportunity and equity in so many places to people with intellectual disability to improve their lives. And there's still so much more opportunity, which is why we'll keep putting it front and center and fighting the fight and making sure the abilities of this population are appreciated and put to work and celebrated and.
So when you said yes to this opportunity, because you happen to be a business big shot, but when this opportunity came to you, was it an immediate, oh my God, of course, no problem, or did you have to sit with it for a little bit?
Well, it was interesting. As you said, I've been involved in so many different capacities in Special Olympics, a coach and volunteer and super fan, and I'm an alumni of the board of Special Olympics Minnesota, and I was a unified partner for like 15 minutes, but I got fired. Katie told me I was keeping her from going for the gold, and that is true, because my golf game is terrible, so I was one and done on the golf course with her. But I knew through just what's always been this long-term involvement in Special Olympics Minnesota that they, as a host program, were bidding on the 2026 USA Games and played a role early in that bid process, just helping get Special Olympics Minnesota connected to incredible organizations like Minnesota Sports and Events, who subsequently came to partner and help with the bid, much to our celebration and success. Wendy and her team, fantastic, working with Dave and his team at the time. So played kind of that connector role and continued to do my day job, and learned from just staying close to the bid process that it looked very, very positive for Minnesota, and that was probably 2021, right?
Oh wow, that far back.
Yeah, about a year before it was formally awarded, and the governor announced it in the spring of 2022. And I was approached to ask if I knew anybody who might be interested. And I'm like, well, sure, I have a big network, and let me give you some ideas. And suffice to say, I'm very, very grateful that they finally came back and said, we met you, and then didn't take no for an answer, because that was my immediate. I'm like, I'm humbled and honored, but I have a very big job that I love as well. And if I could say anything, aside from just gratitude of their persistence and appreciation for what I might be able to bring to this, super grateful to Accenture. They're an employer that appreciates the power of diversity and inclusion, work to create an environment of belonging. So when I came forward and said, my goodness, we do big pro bono things all the time. Is this something that we'd entertain? The fact that Accenture leaned in so quickly and in such a significant way, it says a lot about them. And I'm the wonderful recipient of what is that. And I think about there are very few opportunities, in a corporate environment that something like this represents, right? The opportunity for an organization to bring resources and assets to bear that can be business as a power for good, right?
Yes.
good for brand and reputation is a lovely upside of that, but it's not why it's done, right? But it truly is we can make a difference with the assets we have. It aligns fully with everything the organization represented from a DE&I perspective, again, inclusion and belonging, and certainly everything that we want to be doing from a corporate social responsibility perspective. And then I would say, the opportunity around employee engagement is just tremendous, and to bring something forward within your organization that provides employees the opportunity to come together in such a meaningful way outside the workforce, and frankly to see the organization as a force for good and something that isn't just we care only about shareholder value and growth and profits and all that, I think is really, really important. So something like this, it gets a star next to probably all four of those different boxes. And again, I'm very grateful that I'm in a position to be able to do something like this that will be so important, not just to the mission, but to our community.
No kidding. Minnesotans show up. We now for sure know that. And I think the corporations show up, and they have for a long time. And recently I spoke to Brett, and we were talking about that there's something that is not performative about giving and doing acts of service in Minnesota. We actually care, and that's why we're one of the maybe happiest states or cities in the world here in Minneapolis. There's something in the water that's really remarkable. So I get really excited about that. Yeah. But okay. You're leading the largest sporting event, humanitarian event of the year. And you are you are an executive. You're still at Accenture. Yeah. How do you, I don't know how you do it all, but so please, how do you manage it all?
Oh, well, it's a labor of love, I will say, for sure. At this point, near almost 100% of my time, well, on paper, 20% of my time is still supporting our responsibilities within Accenture. I have responsibility for our Minneapolis office location. And so the remainder of my time, is now driving all the work forward associated with the event. I think you said it well when you say you don't know it's hard until it's hard, or you don't know it's important until it becomes important. And there's been some real challenges, be it with balance and capacity and all that. But I would say it seems it hasn't ever seemed burdensome to manage ever, because it is so important. And it's personal, of course, so that makes it. But we have such a clear North Star about what we want to deliver, and such a clear, it's so important what we do to the athletes, and it's so important what we're doing to the families, and it's so important to me that those gracious people, yourself, that have invested and stood behind this, see this come forward in the beautiful, meaningful, really high impact way that we know it can and will. And so, you kind of just buckle in and do what you do, and it probably isn't until the backside of it that you'll look back and go, oh wow,
I need a really long vacation. I need a really long vacation. But this is a testament for everyone listening. I can't remember, but when you have the saying, when you have a powerful, strong why, you can live it almost anyhow. And I think this purpose, wanting to do something that's so fulfilling, that drives us, we find the energy. I often talk about the parenting. When you have small children, you may be exhausted, but you keep plugging away no matter what.
You don't even think about it. You just keep doing.
You just do it.
Just keep doing.
Well, you've spent, I think it was 35 years in a career where outcomes and success is in a very measurable, very tangible way. I feel like this new initiative, this running Special Olympics and really organizing the entire process, and we're going to talk a little bit more in depth. The metrics are a little bit different. They're about human dignity. They're about how we show up. I'm wondering, as an executive, as someone who has a really keen eye and ear for success. How are you measuring success metrics right now?
Yeah. My team watching will grin from ear to ear because I came in and it is mission based for sure, but I came in and I didn't treat this any differently than a big, hugely important kind of transformation project. I've spent the entirety of my career having the privilege of serving incredible clients that Accenture is serving, and all with very measurable outcomes of shareholder value or growth, or that importantly that we're after. And in my mind, it's the same thing. We started with exercises to define what our North Star was. How do we want 2026 to be experienced? How do we want it to be felt? What is good going to look like? The old exercise, if we were going to write the Time magazine article or what's on the front page, what do we want it to say? And so we my leadership team, the board came together and we honored what were exercises to define our kind of strategy and our mission. And then we followed that with user experience design to say, this isn't just, quote unquote, about the athletes. The athletes are our North Stars, but we're going to have 3,000 families, right, that are coming that represent sacrifices and support and all that made that happen. We have 20,000 volunteer shifts, right? So however many belly buttons that translates to for volunteers. We have a half a dozen critically important stakeholder groups here, all of whose experiences are tremendously important that we understand in terms of the moments that matter the most, how we deliver on them, and again, how we plan such that we can make all that happen. And so we did all that work, and in my mind, there are a number of things that can be measured. There's all those beautiful intangibles like you talked about, but there are some very important things to be measured. I don't know exactly how you measure inclusive mindsets, but in my mind, the transformation here is driving the movement forward, right? Improving lives of people with intellectual disability. The outcome here, instead of shareholder growth, is growing inclusive mindsets. Right? And there are all sorts of very important metrics, right? In sitting down with our partner organization, Special Olympics Minnesota, there's very tangible goals that using the platform of a national games like we'll host supports in terms of the metrics that Special Olympics Minnesota is driving. What do those look like? More athletes in the program, more unified partners in the program, more volunteers into the program, more coaches, volunteer coaches. More than not, a lot of programs are metered in their growth by the lack of coach volunteers. They're able to, at more unified champion schools. That's an official certification, right? A school district that offers adaptive sport programming, that offers opportunities for people with differing, abilities, and Minnesota leads the way, by the way, in the nation of number of unified champion schools. But how do we use the platform to drive more of those? So there are some. They will be trailing metrics, of course. The games will be long done, but my hope is, my trust is that, if not 2027, come 2028, 2029 and beyond, that we can all celebrate what our significant, the significant impact that the games had on all those different things.
And how it changed the tapestry of the community. I'm sitting here and there's so many things that I heard, but the importance of they picked the right person. So the importance of having a visionary, an utmost visionary who understands the big picture and who understands what it takes. There is this, there's so many layers, and then being able to get very granular and very detailed and talk about the actual metrics. And you do both. So you're thinking about legacy, you're thinking about the vision for the games, you're thinking about the soul spirit and the emotional connection. Then you're talking about, okay, what's the actual success? And it is remarkable. And I'm always this is why someone of your caliber is needed to run
You're
something
so
like
gracious.
this. No, but it is true,
Thank
right?
you.
It's
Thank you.
not you don't show up and do decades of such incredible work with and accolades that you've had in our community. I mean, I've heard of you before I have met you, right?
Thank you.
But really the importance, when you think about that, when you think about finding incredibly qualified, specifically women leaders to run things, what do you notice a pattern? I've noticed a lot of women in Minnesota showing up leading really, really big things. I'm curious, have you noticed a shift or a tendency for women particularly to rise to more?
I love that question too. Um, I I think women certainly lead differently, and I think that whether it's the way we just are or we wired, um, leading with purpose, leading with heart, leading comfort in in a in a I'm trying to find the right word in that in a space that isn't classically assertive, or I hate to make generalizing comments about male leaders because I've worked with many and been mentored by so many that are absolutely incredible and don't lead like this stereotype, right, that I'm trying to define and compare against. I don't mean that, but I I um I think there's really an appreciation for kind of that leading with heart
Yes.
and soul and mind
Yes.
and that intersection of IQ and EQ and comfort with that peace being out in front that
It's
I
very,
think, yeah, women are, yeah.
it's a game changer. You said
Yeah.
it beautifully, and I think that that's precisely what I was hitting,
Yeah.
trying to address. There is, again, whether we like it or not, majority women lead differently.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
just tend to just think about things differently, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I think both for men,
Yeah.
there's a place for it all. But I've noticed women leaders, the way that they show up, that is very, I think, versus just being very binary. There's a very like, well, what are the gray areas? Why are we considering, like, we're a lot
Right.
more inclusive very often, and
Right.
also the heart and the
Yeah.
soul.
Yeah.
That is like, so that's been an interesting thing even
Yeah,
from
yeah.
these shows.
I will tell you though, it is a beautiful evolution and appreciation that I've seen in the workforce for the very long time that I've been in it. I was, and it was probably within the first 10 years of my career, I got career coaching advice that told me to stop being so pink.
Oh Lord,
And it was from
no.
a woman leader, no less.
No. How
You're
long
like,
ago was this?
This would have been in the probably the mid 90s.
Oh, the horror.
Stop being so pink. And I thought, oh my gosh, that suggests that I'm demonstrating classically female qualities that this conversation would say can be very advantageous. And you're sending a message that says, if you don't fit a classic mold, you're not going to be successful. So I'm so glad I ignored it. I'm so glad I ignored it, and I'm so glad that there has been this beautiful evolution, and it is so different today in an appreciation of, we'll call it differing abilities, right, or differing profiles of leaders, and there is no one shape that success takes, right, in terms of what that has to
Yes,
look like. So,
amen for progress. How
yeah,
beautifully said. Oh
yeah.
my gosh, I will never
Yeah.
unhear that. That was something else. I have a statistic here that shocked me. Only 18.5% of people with intellectual disabilities
Thank you for
are
bringing this up.
employed at a level matching their abilities compared to 70% of everyone else. So you've spent your career building teams. I'm really curious, what do you think of that gap, and what is broken, and what can be done about it?
Oh my gosh, I so appreciate this question. It is a statistic that I didn't, despite all of my decades around the mission, it's a statistic that I didn't know until I came into this role, and was shared by Special Olympics per all of their research. 18.5%. What a crisis of under and unemployment
I have
in this
goosebumps.
population. And you think about all the ability that's sitting out there untapped. Shame on all of us not to be figuring out how to make our economy better, make our it's it's been really, again, back to because it's personal. It's really important to me that this is, I'll come back to the 18.5%, but it's really, really important to me that this moment, which will be a beautiful moment called the event, the last week in June, is really that propels the movement, right? And the movement of Special Olympics, with sports as its origin, really has four critical pillars, right, that it prioritizes in terms of improving lives. Sport, of course, number one. Number two is in the area of health and wellness, so we can come back to that if that's of interest. Youth inclusion, another area. We poked at Unified Champion Schools a little bit, but this bringing together kids with and without intellectual disability with the beautiful reduction of bias and bullying and stigma and all that as a trailing impactor. But in this space of Special Olympics calls it athlete leadership, and it is training of athletes off the field to help enable them to be as high impact contributors in their community as they can be. We'll call that what it is. Ultimately, that is represented in workforce numbers, or
100%.
represented in the workforce. And so with the blessing of Special Olympics, took a little bit of license. We're just going to call it athlete employment. We're not going to call it athlete leadership. And so as we define the scope for the games, the team, I belovedly I have a one-pager. The team teases me for a one-pager. Everything has to be synthesized down so it can be clearly understood into the one-pager, but a one-pager that endeavors to describe the scope of the event in the context of the broader mission. And it importantly describes the scope of the event on the field and off the field, and represents those three other critically important priorities of Special Olympics. So what are we doing in that fourth bucket of athlete employment to get after that statistic? With, frankly, the gift of Accenture resources, Accenture has curated and created what we're calling a unified work playbook. And it brought me to my knees in the most wonderful of ways. In some of our earlier conversations with sponsors, we would talk about the mission in that, and I had so many, the reactions that I got from leaders who immediately heard this and wanted to be part of the solution said,
Yes.
there's really something here. It isn't, they need some resources and some education and support to understand how to go access this talent pool and how to be successful, because there are certainly some different considerations that need to be there. So we've created this unified work playbook. We decided we're not going to wait until the games to introduce it. We introduced it at a partner forum in 2025, and we've been holding what are unified work summits, or unified work series, a set of virtual or hybrid sessions to bring partners together to have this very important dialogue. And that work will culminate in a unified work summit that'll take place the week of the games to, again, bring companies together, prospective employers together, many that have been on this journey for some time and already have tremendous success stories that they can share, others interested in starting the journey. But again, how do we use the power of this platform to have some of this dialogue and discussion, and make 18.5% be something different than 18.5% far north of that, in Minnesota.
I think what you are doing, very often what I think is visibility. Very often people are not aware of the problem until it's important to them, right? So I think the fact that the games are coming, the fact that we're making such a big splash out of it, the fact that we have 75,000 volunteers, the
Yeah.
fact that Minnesotans are coming through, we're talking about it, the visibility of it, I think makes people more
For
more
sure.
aware. One of the things for our show, we have a lot of executives, a lot of business owners listening to the show. Do you have a message for them about how they could be part of the change?
Yeah, my simple message is raise your hand,
Yeah.
ask the question. Again, these conversations I had, this interest in, oh my gosh, we want to be part of the solution oozed out, which again speaks to the incredible business community and the care they have. Again, we can help get you connected. We can bring you resources. Just reach out and let us help. Let us help. So.
I love that. I want to ask a little bit about again, one of the things that I'm so impressed with is, and I really look up to, I interviewed the greats, and I just I feel like I'm sitting here, and it's such an honor because I'm learning so much from people who have done so much. As being such an revered, such an accomplished leader in our community, how do you rally people around a cause that they may not feel as excited about? How do you create that culture where everyone feels the same excitement and passion that you do?
Well, first of all, you're so kind and gracious in your comments.
I
It's so
speak the truth.
lovely of you. If you made reference to volunteers and talk about how you kind of create, I don't think I can take credit for that. I think we Minnesotans, and even here in our Twin Cities community, we Minnesotans care. Minnesotans show up when it matters. I think my job is simply to make Minnesotans aware of this opportunity. The games are coming. There's an opportunity to engage. There's an opportunity to get involved. And so, to your point about visibility, how do I be a drumbeat, or how do I be a mouthpiece for what is this incredible opportunity to come forward and learn more and come forward and support. And I will say that it's a bit of a challenge. I challenge anyone who hasn't interacted with an athlete or hasn't been at a Special Olympics event not to be touched in some significant way. You talked about the impact Elizabeth had.
Yeah.
She's one of 8,000 Special Olympics athletes across our state. Getting people exposed to the movement, drawing them in whatever the right in looks for them, volunteering, just cheering, just bringing your family and coming to enjoy some of the community engagement spaces, they'll be touched. And the Special Olympics culture and the Special Olympics
It changes
is what drives
us.
this forward. It's
Yeah.
not Christy. It's not Christy.
Well,
Yeah.
I beg to differ.
It's
I
not.
understand what you're saying, and of course, but you're leading it, and I really don't think, again, going back to that, I want to say this because it's important for people listening. When we want to do something right, electing the right leaders and appointing the right leaders who can actually execute with heart and soul. And it really takes a visionary, and it takes someone who is incredibly skilled. So again, all the greats are like, it's never me, it's the team. And I love that, right? It's like, but I want to really bring it back for a lot of the people who are listening, the importance of those skills that you may not think are important now, that they can one day lead you to lead an event or be in a different job where you can make tremendous impact because of that experience. So I really think what you have done in the way that you have done it, because I've been watching you now for a year, has been calculated is a poor word. Strategic. It has been a very well executed, but then the heart and the soul and the vision for what it matters. And I get really excited because and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But it isn't just about this particular event. But gosh, the reverb that we're going to have for years and decades to come because of it.
Oh, that's the hope. That's the hope. That's the trust.
That
That's
is the trust.
I think it's probably just because it's personal.
Yes.
It's a lived experience, and it's having watched and experienced as an extension, um, my sister not getting opportunity, or my sister not being invited to birthday parties, or like, oh, Katie's great, but well, where's the opportunity for Kate to, where's Kate's peer network, where's Kate's friend group when it really would have mattered, where's Kate's work opportunity, where's Kate's opportunity for a college experience. I mean, you saw all this, and so, Special Olympics has just been Special Olympics was such a gift when it came into her life, and we hear this from all the athletes, because it brought her people. It brought her people. It brought her opportunity. It brought her the chances to build her skills, right? Build her abilities, and show them off, right?
Yes.
Show them off, and you watch this young woman grow, and this confidence develop, all as a byproduct of what this tremendous organization does. So, and having had the opportunity to experience through Kate's the successful one in the family, and in what she's accomplished in her Special Olympics career, but having experienced USA Games as a family member, and watching her athlete experience, and having experienced World Games as she represented Team USA, and to see some of that, and having experienced these games as a corporate sponsor, and having experienced these games as a volunteer, I said, for the good or the bad of my team, I came in with a point of view about everything.
That's what it
But
takes.
the opportunity to curate from what was the best of all those different experiences you saw others do, and to be able to see what it could be with just a little more here, or just a little more there, in terms of the type of athlete and family and volunteer experiences we could deliver. So it's just, I'm so grateful for what is, again, the support that we've gotten, through our sponsors and suppliers and investors and partnerships and all that that are honestly enabling this vision to be able to come to life.
I'm really excited. I have to tell you, it's like I'm looking forward to it. Like my entire family, my boys, we're all engaged.
Good.
We're going to be there. We're going to help out. And it is, I think that's what it takes. It takes us showing up. And also, that's a really great question. You were talking earlier about like visibility and encouraging people to get involved. People are listening, and what I know about Rise to More folks is that they are givers. They really want to do something that matters. What can we still do? Last time when Nick was here, we led a campaign. We talked at length about donations and raising the funds, which I'm so excited about. But we met the goal, but we still can donate.
Always.
What are you in need of right now? What can we tell the folks? How can they get involved and contribute to the mission?
Yeah. Well, gratitude again. We talk with the board about the pools of resources that we need for this to be successfully, or for all of our objectives to be successfully met. From a financial resources perspective, we have line of sight to it, and so again, gratitude to that type of support that we've gotten. We're in the business now of human resources, right? We're not going to be successful without what is that cadre of volunteers that really are an extension of our team. As I had referenced earlier, 20,000 volunteer shifts to support the games end to end, be it support the sporting events, support the special events, the ceremonies, the special events, support the community engagement spaces, all of our fan zones, support athlete health and well-being, right? The housing, the dining. I mean, there's something for everyone for a volunteer perspective. The other thing that we're really, really, and this ties back to legacy, really beating the drum about, if you're not, volunteering isn't for everyone, but there's a space for everyone. And if volunteering isn't your thing, come cheer, right? Showing up at all, even
That's
talking
huge.
about it as a voice of inclusion. Showing up at all, right, is showing up in support. So it's a fill the stadiums. I'm like, how do we get the money, we get the bodies that we need, and now we need the stadiums full. And so what do the partnerships look like that can make sure that our athletes have full stadiums cheering them on, that our special events are attended, and this would go for the sports too, by many, many that are new to the mission, that have
Yes.
never experienced Special Olympics, that hear there's this thing happening, that are curious, that grab their family and friends and come out. Come cheer, and come experience the fan zones and the community engagement spaces and all the programming that's there.
Can you imagine that how the heart and the soul is going to be so palpable in this space?
Yeah.
Like I'm such a big believer of energy. Like
Yeah,
where
me
two or
too.
more are gathered
Yeah.
with the same intent.
Yeah.
And when you come into this space with so much love,
Yeah.
how we're all going to be uplifted just being in that space. So it's end of June. It's so folks listening, June 27th, I believe.
June 20th to 26th.
20th to 26th.
20th to 26th.
Okay.
Our website is 2026usagames.org for more information about the events, for opportunities to sign up to be a volunteer, for details about these fan zones and special events, and how to get tickets and engage.
I
and all
love that. We're going to
stuff,
include
and
all of that, folks, on the in the
Wonderful.
show notes. So
Yes.
just look for that. It's going to be a really easy way, and also on social media, wherever this is shared, we're going to have a link in bio for that,
Yeah.
which I'm really excited
Yeah.
about. I
The
want to
other
ask
thing
you.
I would say about financial resources is the beautiful thing about an event like this that is supported, any dollar that's donated stays in the mission. So anything that ultimately isn't in need of service to support the games, at the end of the games flows back into Special Olympics. So
Amen.
we always say we have line of sight to what we need to deliver the type of athlete experience and for the games, but every dollar matters, right? Every dollar
Absolutely.
matters. So there's a way to donate on the site as
Absolutely.
well.
And again, going back to giving, I think I've read somewhere that Minnesotans are the per capita, the most charitable folks on earth. So we give more, we volunteer
I've
more.
not heard that stat, but I believe it.
Yeah, it was when we were talking about when we were the happiest, I think, city in the world. We explored like what are some of those things, and there was a correlation between the amount of giving, the philanthropy, and also the level of volunteering and community engagement with the happiness. And
It is. You give back more than you give. You know, it's
so
so.
cool.
I'll tell you a fun story. So I had the opportunity to be at Special Olympics International headquarters in D.C. about a year ago. And we still had not finalized our volunteer campaign. And SOI shared a video that they had recently done that included Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And it was a story that I'd never heard before, but it was ultimately him talking about being at the gym and training and meeting what was a Special Olympics athlete, a Special Olympics powerlifting athlete, and came to build this lovely relationship with this athlete. And he talks about how he's changed through that, and he finished his story a bit with like, he's the Rock's rock. He's the guy that, you know, keeps me grounded. He's the guy that reminds me what matters and all that. But I came back with that story and talked about the volunteers or just any interaction with these athletes leaves you forever changed.
Yes.
It is transformative, whether it's little t transformative or big t, it's transformative.
It really
and
is.
Forever Changed became our volunteer campaign, our marketing team.
But what a
partnership.
beautiful testament, because
Yeah,
it's true.
it
And
is.
I think that that's what we're really
Actually,
trying
you
to.
get more than you give.
Yeah,
you get back so much.
always. Always. You know, I want to ask you, my son, who is 11, and he is still in elementary school. So 3 times a week, he goes and he spends an hour, I believe, an hour and a half, supporting special needs children. And one of the things that we try to talk about in our family, again, the always being an advocate and being supportive. I'm seeing a change because when I was growing up, I don't know if it was the taboo or just not as visible. Again, the advocacy, we
Yeah,
didn't talk
yeah.
about it. Our children are growing up with a different heart, empathy, understanding, level of inclusion. So I'm curious when we think about all of us every single day, going about our
Yeah.
lives, what do you think we could do in our every single day to be more inclusive or be more cognizant or aware of athletes and just in general anyone with intellectual disability in our community?
Well, what a beautiful thing you just shared with me, and good parenting is also part of those amazing kids, right? Like, um, I it is a world that is, I think, far more accepting and tolerant of difference, which is really important. And that journey is one that I trust will continue. I think of the way, I think I mean, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, who's, the founder of Special Olympics, talking about her sister, being cast to the side, being hidden, being all that. And so Special Olympics birthed in the backyard, right, to bring a community together for other people like her sister Rosemary. So I think a next generation that has been, I referenced young athlete programming within Special Olympics, like the bringing kids with and without intellectual disability together at very young ages. I think to the extent that these young lives are exposed to differences go away, right? And there is an appreciation for differing abilities, right? And that carries with you then as they go into schools and then ultimately go into their communities. And so I think about the workplace and how it's changed, and how it's encouraged now. I think about Accenture has an accessibility solutions center that sits right next to you outside of a walk-up tech support window.
Yeah.
I mean, in days of past, all of the accessibility solutions, if you needed something for support for reading a sight solution, a hearing solution, even an orthotic solution of some, they're all out, and it's encouraged for you to, and expected that you would come share your needs so that your needs can be met, so the
Yes.
fullest of your abilities can be unleashed.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
and so all of this kind of rumination, to come back to a direct story, to say, what do? You ask, and are you okay, and do you need anything, and is there anything that I can help you with, and invite in and include in all of those beautiful things that I
Okay.
think start to happen very naturally and organically when
When
at
you're
these
open,
when you're
when you're just
open.
open.
Yeah,
I have a
yeah,
question for
yeah.
you. There, we've used so many terms over here. What is, there's differing abilities. There, you've said intellectual disability, and then there's special needs. Would you define all of those? Like, are they
Yeah.
interchangeable? Just so for our listeners, because
Yeah.
I think sometimes people don't want to offend or they don't even know
Yeah.
what the right
Well, see,
language
there's
is.
the beautiful thing about asking. Isn't that the beautiful thing about asking? Because many people, I think, want to help or want to engage, but are worried about saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing, and inadvertently.
Doing the wrong thing.
Right, exactly. So it is. So I love that you asked. So, intellectual disability has a formal diagnosis, right? Typically with an IQ or something that's at a certain level. Special Olympics does not limit participation in Special Olympics to having had a formal IQ test or neurological thing that would say you have an intellectual disability. Instead, they've opened doors wide open to any child, because typically it is in that middle school or high school age that it comes into Special Olympics. But any child that has an IEP in school, an individual education program, and which is wonderful. So that's formally kind of intellectual disability. that. We like to say differing abilities, to not
I
put
love that so
to
much
not put
better.
an intellectual disability label
Yes, well, I said it twice
necessarily
because I was
on
trying to
something.
mimic
Just like
you. I'm like,
we all have different abilities. We all have different
I
abilities
love
in
that.
how in our IQ, in our EQ, in our physical abilities. We all have differing
100%.
abilities. So, I refer to that as just meeting to use an inclusive way that we talk about everybody's differences and the
See,
fact that
I
everybody
love
has
that.
something to offer
Yeah.
yeah. So,
That speaks to me because I was trying to be, at the beginning you said intellectual disability, and I was like, oh, I better repeat that because in my
yeah,
own head.
yeah,
And again, this is my
yeah,
own thing. You
yeah,
always want to say the right thing, but I really, really this idea of differing abilities, and you said it so beautifully. We're all different, and we all
yeah,
have different abilities, and it is. I think that that's also an incredibly inclusive language
yeah,
that is empowering.
yeah.
Gosh, Chrissy, I know that I've heard you say that really wonderful the games are going to be here, and we're so proud that that is the case. What do you think the impact is going to be for our state and for the athletes after these games this year?
Yeah. Thank you for that. I two things. I think about the impact from a mission perspective, and I think about the impact, or again, the kind of the lasting legacy we want to leave from the community. From a mission perspective, I, I, I hope that the platform again is is elevating all four of the pillars, right? I think in the way that we're executing some things, in the way that we're talking about some things, I hope that that can continue to advance the movement in an important way, and leave Special Olympics, right, in the mission in a more elevated state. And maybe my segue to kind of the community. Because this comment would be one that is both a mission impact and a community impact. 5% of households in the US have a person with intellectual disability in them. And of course, there's far less than 5%. There's far less than those numbers that are directly involved in Special Olympics. And so I hope the impact is that brings a lot more people into the mission. Either as an athlete with ID or as a unified partner, a person without ID that's competing directly with them. That obviously elevates the mission from an involvement perspective. I think that also, as I segue to community, has a community impact that's an important one. I hope that from a community perspective as well, again, using the platform and being able to bring visibility, that statistic that you cited about athlete employment, I hope there's a difference in our community over time related to it. The other statistic that I learned from Special Olympics in the athlete health and wellness space was 16. Being 16 years is the difference between life expectancy between people with and without intellectual disability.
Wow.
I hope in the health and wellness space, there's an appreciation of what we can and need to do related to access, to early screenings, to early interventions, to all these things that we know the sooner the better to mitigate against that gap can make. So I hope for our community that we're a number far less than 16 years discrepancy from a health and wellness. I hope from a community perspective, we're a community that's a lot higher than 18.5% from a athlete employment perspective. And I just, I hope that the involvement, be it a volunteer or a cheerleader, is that does change perceptions, the old forever change perceptions in an important way, right, that unlocks ability in all different spaces.
I think that there are moments in time where great leaders come in and then they change the trajectory of a movement. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I think this year that's you. And I'm really appreciative and very excited because I've never been aware of it as much. And that's probably thanks to your vision, the incredible team, the board. They're just like a beautiful assembly of just perfect humans to make this into something really wonderful. And I'm just really, really excited. So I have this inner like fire in my tummy, this excitement about this is really going to be transformative for
No,
our
I'm
community.
you say this, I'm very humbled. I am blessed and privileged to be in a place that I can be a face and a mouthpiece for what is a lot of tremendously important work that others like me have been doing for a very long time leading up to this, and that others like me will do for a long time after this. And an amazing team and amazing supporters and all this that will make that last week in June tremendous. So I appreciate it.
Oh, well, I am just so incredibly excited. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much
for
for
talking to
having
me. Thank you for saying yes to this. Thank you for leading us. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for your soul. Thank you for your, like talk about it, leadership and executive. I was going to, this fierceness that you have. And I just, because this is so, I'm passionate about it and I want everyone to know about it. Thank you also for taking the time out of an incredibly busy life,
it's my honor.
running two huge companies to come and talk to me. I so appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for caring so much. Thank you for being on.
I love you so much.
Thank you for being on this journey with us. I'm so touched.
It's been a joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to link, folks, all of the resources that we have mentioned today in the show notes. Really, this is what it takes. It takes an incredible group of people to come together and contribute in a way that is so meaningful. The world is full of turmoil and there's so much negativity out there. But you know what we have, every single one of us, every single day? We have an opportunity to make a change, to contribute to the good and the light of this world. That's what Christy is doing. That's what her team is doing. That's what you and I can do. So whether you're donating to Special Olympics, whether you are coming with your family to cheer the athletes on, or you're going to volunteer there in my family, we'll look forward to seeing you. Thank you for your heart, for listening and tuning in, and for being part of the mission.